Yeah. What do you think about, so persuasion, we work in persuasion, obviously. I had Colin Terry
Sure.
on my show a few weeks ago, and we talked a lot about this stuff about persuasion in general. What do you tell people, especially like newer marketers, newer business people who find the idea of selling and persuading ethically abhorrent more than anything else, right? You meet these people that either don't want to sell because they're afraid to, or there's people like I've dealt with people before who are like trying to persuade anybody to buy anything is fundamentally wrong, which I'm like, well, go fuck yourself, whatever. Do you have any kind of like thoughts on why people come at, like, what do you think about the ethics of persuasion, the ethics of marketing, that kind of thing?
The ethics of persuasion, in my opinion, are abhorrent. They're terrible if
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to persuade somebody to do something that's not in their best interest to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you think about it, this is the way I look at it. And when I go to close a sales piece,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I'm selling a thing that's going to help somebody's life or has potential to help somebody's life, I switch my position to a very commanding position.
Yep.
And I think about being at a coffee shop across from a friend who's really, really sick that needs to go to the hospital.
That is great. Yeah, that is great.
So I look at them and go, dude, well, I'm just going to go home and take some. No, you're not. Bullshit. Get your ass up, get in the car. I'm taking you to the hospital right now because this is bullshit. I'm not going to let my friend die because you're going to be all prideful and tough. Get your ass up right now. I'm going to drag you by the ear. I'm going to take you to the doctor right now. We're going to get you better.
And here we are, we're officially going, even though Perry made me wait an extra 18 minutes because, it's like you want to show up to the party late. It's a power play. I understand.
You're not supposed to say that sort of stuff.
On the line?
I'm doing it. I'm working with props here. I got my very fancy, pizza box that I just set the computer on so I could get
like $9 billion now and have like 7 Rolls Royces.
I'm
Why
worth,
can't you get a decent desk?
Well, I just got another divorce.
I didn't know about. Wait, how many divorces are you in now?
Oh gosh, let's not talk numbers, but enough. I promise you.
I hope you had a good prenup
buddy.
For this one. Yeah.
I just like giving away half my shit every 7 or 8 years. Yeah,
it keeps you motivated, right? Like,
dude, you have no idea. I'm so fired up, motivated now.
Yeah.
Because if you seriously, if you just give away half your stuff, I figured out the secret to motivation for rich people.
That's pretty awesome. Just lose everything on a regular basis and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Bill Gates and those guys, they all do that 50% challenge to charity thing.
They do.
I do roughly the same thing,
Here's a good question for you coming out of that, actually.
Ex-wives.
Oh yeah, one quick thing. As this goes, this is more of a conversation than an interview, right? That's what we're going for. If you have any questions for me about anything, go ahead and ask them because that seems to happen quite a bit. I will probably interrupt you as we're talking if you say something that I think is interesting and want to dig deeper into. So talking about money, because money is a fascinating topic for this kind of thing. Are you money motivated? Like, does that drive you with like the idea? Because you're a lot more focused on like cool stuff than you're also a lot richer than I am, but that doesn't really matter. But like for me, money is safety, right? For me, money is like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm not poor in America because being poor in America sucks. But I don't care about, like, my car is a 2015 Subaru Outback with 10,000 miles on it that I haven't washed in 5 years. I just don't care. Like, what you've done so many businesses, you've been very, very successful. You've also had some tremendous failures like we all have. What drives you to like work so hard as you do, besides, having to pay off your ex-wife and such? What is your motivation?
Not much had been motivating me.
Really?
In the last couple of years, to be honest with you. And it was affected. It was really, it had really affected me. If you notice, like, remember the last time you saw an ad from me?
It's been a while. Yeah. It's been quite a while.
Yeah. Until like yesterday, you probably saw it 3 times, right? Probably. So I'm advertising like mad again and back in the market again. And, really putting fire under the butts of all my people, my companies. I was just kind of letting everything chill because I didn't really need anything.
Because you
didn't really need anything,
right? So you guys did amazingly well with the TNC sale, I hope.
Well, I had 4 exits in
holy crap,
24 months.
Oh my!
So God. I sold, So we sold TNC to Blackstone, which was
great timing, by the way. Great timing.
Yeah,
right before the
pandemic. Thus the mansion and the Rolls Royce. That was I went kind of crazy after that one, and then not too long after that. I sold my interest to Digital Marketer to Ryan and Roll in an all cash deal.
Wow.
And not all cash and stock swap deal.
Sure.
that was actually more lucrative for me than TNC.
Damn, dude.
And they were happy with the deal too. We're also great friends.
Yeah. No, they're great guys.
And then I immediately sold half of the assets that I had left over from that sale to the Agora companies. So that was my third exit.
Damn, dude.
And then I had a marketing agency called Platter that I sold to a medical marketing company out of Kentucky. So I sold I did 3 8-figure, 1 7-figure exits in 24 months. I was in due diligence for 3 companies at the same time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was cracked out. And then I was like, oh wow, I'm rich. So what do I do now? Right. Yeah. And so for
that can be a really tough place for people, right? Like, I mean, I got to the point that again, I'm nowhere near as rich as you are, but I have more than I need. And it's difficult for me sometimes to get drive because I'm like, well, I'm fine. I'm fine no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't really need to worry about it.
Yeah. So I kind of just sat around and, I did some stuff, but I was kind of, I say playing business. I make a joke of that sometimes, that people are playing business. They're not really in business. They're playing business. So I kind of played business for a while and just chilled. If I didn't want to go to work, I didn't go to work, and whatever. And I was, relatively unhappy in my personal life. And to be just straight up, my ex is a fantastic person. Just
that's
a
awesome.
terrific person.
I'm glad to hear you say that. That's awesome.
And we're super great friends, and we just had very different directions and goals in life. She's a championship tennis player. So she travels all over the world playing tennis, and she's amazing at it. And that's her life. That's what she does.
And you travel all over the place with your stuff as well. Were you guys just
I travel over doing business
that often?
There were some months we'd only see each other 2-3 days in passing,
Wow. Yeah.
So it was really challenging. She had no interest in the business world. I had no interest in the tennis world. So we really didn't have much common ground to work with. And when we got married, she didn't have a lot of interest. So she was really just all about supporting me and my stuff, which was great.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons I settled that deal was by writing a big check, because she totally deserved it. Everything that I earned during that time, 15 years.
Okay. So a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
That would be
almost 15 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a great person. And, but anyway, but as soon as that was over with, man, I just kind of fired it under my ass. I'm like, wow, this could be half of my money. Yeah. So I just set a goal to make it all back in 1 year.
Damn, dude. How's that been going?
25% I'm 25% of the way there.
You are a driven motherfucker. That's impressive.
I'm about 25%. I'm about 25% into the year, and I'm about 25% to goal. And I think I'm going to beat goal.
That's fucking awesome.
I'm trying to get it done by my birthday. July 28th is my birthday. I'm trying.
How old are you going to be? Like 55-ish or something like that?
107 years old.
Dude, you look amazing for 107. You look shitty for 40.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I think I'll be 58.
58?
Yeah, I will be. I'll be 58.
That's not bad, dude. You look good for 58. That's pretty great.
Thanks. Well, that's like saying, hey, you look good for a dead guy.
Yeah, totally too. I one of my ongoing.
They always go up to the casket at the funeral and say, he looks so natural.
He really does. He's all painted
like
on there.
Yeah.
One of my ongoing jokes is if you're going to lie about your age, lie up, not down. Like if I say that I'm 50, I look amazing. But if I say I'm 35, people are like, did you have cancer or something? Like what happened? It kind of cause all those wrinkles and shit like that. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about the first time you and I met. Do you remember the first time we met way back in the day? It was in Las Vegas.
It's always an experience, but I don't remember the first time.
We met, the first time we met was at Mike Phil-Same's event, and it was way back in the day. I think you were just coming back into marketing, right? This was when Ryan was doing kind of the Mr. X promo with you, where he was like, I have this friend who disappeared for years.
He did the butterfly marketing. He did the butterfly marketing thing. Was that what that was? Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I think that's the first industry event I ever went to. Yeah. As a person in the business. I went as an attendee to a bunch of Ryan Moran stuff back in the day. And I'm not Ryan Moran. What am I saying? Armin Moran stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
I went to, it was funny. The first time I ever went to an Armin Moran event, Marlon Sanders, who I adore, was on stage, and he was like,
Oh, that's great.
if you listen to me, you can make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month. And I was already making 400 grand a month, you know, and I'm and the person I brought with me looks at me like, are we in the right place, dude? You know,
That's like Dave Licani. You know Dave Licani, obviously, right? I'm sure you know Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember talking to him at one point. I saw him speak, and he was like, he was on stage, and he's like, who else wants to make $1 million a year speaking 200 days a year? And I'm like, not me. I don't want to make $1 million a year speaking 200 days a year. That sounds, I can think of plenty of other ways to make $1 million a year that don't involve speaking for 200 days a year. That sounds awful.
I just gave him my credit card at Armin's when I got there and said, just give me one of everything. I bought everybody's stuff. So at the end, but you know what's weird? At the end, I went back and applied like a half a dozen things, and we started doing $1 million a month within 90 days. It was a cheap investment.
Yeah.
I believe in buying everybody's stuff. I mean, you never know if you're, I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting. I believe, and Kevin Nations beat this in my head.
Yeah.
If you're not a good buyer, you ain't going to be a good seller.
That's really, okay. Unpack that a little bit. I love, Kevin's going to come on my show at one point. I love that guy, but what does that mean? He's so smart.
Kevin's just smart as shit. Yeah. He said, you get people that come on, you know, want to buy your stuff. And, you know, he sells all his stuff by text message, and he runs away way more people than he runs away way more people than he takes money from.
Yep.
And he'd say, you know, people come in all the time and say, well, can I get a discount? Can I get a payment plan? One of his clients called him. I don't want to talk about his clients or him, but one of his clients called him. I hang out with him a lot now. And I was there, and he's like, you know, I just can't get my clients to stop paying with payment plans. They all want payment plans. And he said, well, when you buy something, do you look for a payment plan? You always get the payment plan. That's why your clients are doing it, because you're you know, you're putting that energy across, and that's, and how you buy is how you sell. How you buy is how you sell. It's like, you know, it's interesting. There's truth to that. There's real truth to it. I think it's a deeply rooted thing, but I can let Kevin unpack that, because he can explain it in a way I couldn't, because he's way smarter than me.
I got to call Kevin. You know, it's interesting doing this show because I have so many people I want to talk to, but it's only once a week. I'm just like, shit, I have like 50.
Yeah, Kevin is so damn smart. My God, he's so smart. Yeah.
I remember when we first met, you and I, we were standing next to each other at Mike Phil Sam's event watching Marshall Silver, and you were just sitting there in awe of Marshall's like selling from the stage. And we were watching how people were literally running to the back of the room to buy stuff and all that kind of fun stuff.
It's fascinating to watch Marshall. He's got a certain talent, that's for sure.
He has a certain talent. He's an intense dude. Him and I became friends for a little bit there, and he watched one of my VSLs, and then he wrote me, and he was like unpacking my VSL from like a psychology and hypnosis standpoint, because obviously he's amazingly good at that. So I found that to be quite a compliment, really, from somebody like that. Love his haircut too. You know. So you grew up in the South. Where did you grow up? You grew up in the South somewhere?
Paducah, Kentucky. Were
you raised poor or raised rich? Like what was your family like?
I was raised just about as poor as anybody could be raised. My mom was a single mom who worked in a nursing home, and which is literally the shittiest job in the world. She used to clean bedpans for people, and we lived in a housing project. I was one of only 7 white kids in a junior high school of 450 black kids. Whoa. So we were on the black side of town, and everybody else on the white side of town. And I think it's probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I got to learn to communicate, and I got to be funny, because it was better to be funny. You kind of have to be funny. Yeah. Than to get beat up every day, you know? So, but yeah, it was really cool. So I got a diversity in that, I think, that really shaped me a lot. But I grew up in a very poor, Southern, segregated, at the time, still segregated town. Not anymore, really, but back then it was literally on one side of town there was a black junior high school, on the other side of town there's a white junior high school. And that's just kind of the way that it was. If you
and in the South
moved into that school district, and in the South. And but I learned a lesson about that. People are very comfortable as long as they're in the majority. It's really interesting. When I was in the mall business years later, I went to Memphis, and I had a store in a mall there called Southland Mall. And it was almost completely African-American mall. And I had a store there, and I did so well. Everybody was really cool to me. Everybody was really nice to me, really respectful. I never had theft problems. I never had violence problems, any of that. And I could do the same thing going to a really high-end mall with mostly Caucasian people.
Sure.
But when I went to a mall, there was a mall there called the Mall of Memphis, and it was about 50-50. And there was so much violence and so much theft and so much anger. It was really weird. Like,
because of that tension, because of that, like the
I guess so. Yeah.
Interesting.
I guess so. It was really odd. I'm sure that probably wouldn't be that way today, or hopefully not as much as it was.
I don't know, man.
then,
The country's getting more racist every day now. So
isn't it really? It really is. But but I've just never had any problem. I've got lots of Black friends, Pakistani friends, Asian friends, South American friends, Mexican friends, everybody. And it just, I think racists are, really rob themselves of the richness of a diversity of friends.
I agree.
They really do.
Oh, even like people, it's interesting. One of the main things I like about you is that you, for somebody who's done phenomenally well, and we all know a lot of the same people in common, obviously, you seem much more able to communicate with the common man than a lot of our friends who are very rich do, right? Like I've never seen you big time anybody. I've never seen you pull the whole, like, I'm only going to talk to this person because they can help me or anything like that. Do you think that's because of your background, like coming from kind of very, very humble beginnings? Because I see a lot of folks, when I'm talking to people about their marketing, sometimes they'll show me what they have. And I'm like, when was the last time you worried about paying a bill? Because it's not coming out in this letter at all. Right? Because it comes, I'm like, no, most people, like in America particularly, what is it? Like most people couldn't get a hold of $1,000 if they needed it in America at this point. So
couldn't afford an $800 auto repair. Yeah.
Couldn't afford an $800. Yeah, I had to pay 10 grand to get my furnace replaced last week. And I was like, I'm really lucky. I can just do that. Most people can't. Because I think a lot of people, when you're successful, they kind of expect you to be libertarian, Elon Musk is a genius, all this other kind of crap. And you're definitely not like that. Do you think that's because of your background and being poor growing up and shit like that, or what?
Honest to God, I don't know. I just never have been, and I've some of the best people I've met in my life that forwarded me up have been people that were in a much lower economic strata than I was. So I don't ever discount that at all. I've got a rule that one of my few rules I live by is the toe you step on today might be connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So I really try to treat everybody with as much respect as they deserve. Sometimes people are not nice, and I just try to avoid not nice people. And I'm fortunate. The thing that I think the greatest thing about actually reaching some level of financial success is that you can get to choose who you play with, right?
That's absolutely true.
I don't have to, I won't say who it is, but it's not really somebody in our industry, but it's still not bad. But a guy called me and says, I hear you're the best guy at this, and you're going to run this thing for me, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. I'm like, dude, he's a very famous guy, and he's made hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm sure that he gets by with that with most people. Like, dude, I don't do that. Yeah. Whatever. You're going to make the big mistake of your life. And I'm like, okay.
I think you're doing this.
Make that mistake then. Yeah. I'll make that mistake then, because it's just, there's no price worth a pain in the ass. And at this point, my age in my life and where I'm at, I'm not as wealthy as everybody thinks I am, but I could live comfortably the rest of my life if I chose to.
You may not be, but you have more than you need. It's like I was talking like Mike.
I have more than I need.
I'm like, you can I
take care of my kids.
If I really wanted to,
Gary has more money than all of us.
But Gary has a lot of fucking.
Gary has more money than all of us. Yeah, he's. I'm gonna just be Mike Gary's third girlfriend here pretty soon, so I can get some of that dough. Anyway,
Mike's a wonderful guy too.
If he was into that,
So how did you get so you were a kid, you were poor, you were like one of the only white kids in this business. What did you want to be when you were a little kid? Like, what was your perception of success?
But I wanted
what was achievable?
Somebody asked me that question not long ago, and I think I've always had one driving force. I just didn't want to be poor.
Yep.
I grew up in so much abstract poverty, and I remember my mom, a story that just burned into my brain. When I was about 12 years old, I got my first job at 13, and I bought groceries with my first paycheck, which was cool.
Wow.
Because my mom was so proud of me.
Yeah.
But when I was about 12 years old, we were living in a housing project called Elmwood Court. It was one of those old brick government funded housing projects. And my mom was working in a nursing home. She had to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was winter and it was super cold outside. And she had an old Ford Maverick, which was, they were terrible cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember her walking outside, and it was probably, 200 feet to the curb where the car was. And I remember her walking outside one morning, and I just heard her scream. And I ran outside to see what was wrong, and she was sitting on the curb, and she was just bawling because someone had stolen the battery out of her car.
Oh man.
And she didn't have any way to get one. And
so like a $150, $200 thing, whatever, but it might as well be $1 million.
She walked 3 miles to work in the cold. And it broke my.
How old were you at the time?
I was 12.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 12. And I went out right then and tried to figure out ways to start making money. And I did. I actually got kicked out of school that year for selling stuff to kids in school, because I was buying pencils and buying candy and buying crap and selling it a little bit. I just started doing stuff in school, and I got a job when I was 13. And as soon as I got a job and I got a paycheck and I started having a little bit of money, I figured out pretty early how to compound that money. I could buy things and sell it to people and stuff like that. So I always had some hustle. I was Charlie Hustle in high school, and I made $80,000 my senior year of high school, and the principal in my high school
30 years ago almost. So that's a lot of money.
The principal in my high school made $41,000. So I made twice as much as my high school principal my senior year of high school.
Did you ever have your rich douchebag phase? Like, I know for me, because I never made more than 30 grand a year before I became successful as a copywriter, right? I went from 30 grand to
I got out of it
pretty year. Yeah.
I got out of it pretty quick when they handcuffed me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did.
That.
I had that rich. Yeah. I had that super rich douchebag phase. So when I so at Armin, and I did those events, and I had 4 or 5 companies, and one of them was a supplement company. You know how litigious that business can be.
I do.
And I was loosey-goosey. I'm just selling stuff like crazy. And I got up to $3 million a month, like quick, fast, in a hurry. And I was throwing off about $500,000 to $600,000 a month, net money. And I bought, I didn't want a Hummer. I couldn't decide which color I wanted, so I bought 3.
Yep.
And I had a Ferrari, and I had a 11,000-foot lake house and boats.
And how old were you then? This was like when you were in your 30s, maybe?
I was 39.
Okay. Yeah.
I was 39 years old. I remember particularly because I turned 40. I had a huge party when I was 40. I was 39 years old, and I was living in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm driving around in Ferraris and Hummers and tipping bartenders $500 because they were cute and stupid shit like that. And I drew a lot of attention to myself. Yep. And the state of Tennessee, not the federal government, not anybody else, decided they would like to have that money. And they figured out a way to get it, because they're pretty good at that.
They are pretty good at it. I was reading some news articles about you this morning about that. Actually, I was doing a little background research. I
was absolutely wrong in what I did. I don't blame anybody for. I got called on it. I got popped. Because I was making claims and things that were probably true. They were likely all true, but they weren't. Still, because it's true doesn't mean it's legal.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So people don't understand that. Like, if you say, hey, drinking cherry juice is good for, or taking dried cherry capsules is good for circulation. Yep. Right. You can say that.
Yep.
If you say, eating dried cherry things might relieve your gout pain, you can't say that. Although it absolutely does.
Even though if you improve your circulation, it will help with your gut pain. But there's a line there.
But
there's a logic line there.
You can't say that. You can't mention that. So and there were some things that we did. We were publishing books like Joe Barton does. Joe Barton was a competitor of mine back then.
Joe's one of my first ever clients back in the day. I wrote like 7 letters.
Joe's a great guy. Yeah. And we were selling supplements. And the problem is there's a law that says if you have two closely held companies, one publishes information and one sells a product, even if you don't make the claims about your product, if the product's mentioned in the book, right?
What?
That's considered a label. That's considered a label extension.
Oh my God. Is that only in Tennessee or is that in general? Like a state, like country?
It's a law in general, but nobody ever enforces it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But the state of Tennessee, that's what happened. That's nobody really knows the whole story of what happened with you. That's what happened. And it gave them the right to come in and seize everything I owned in the world. All my companies, all my real estate, all my belongings, all my cash. And I had a $3 million operating credit line at the bank. So they left me that. Fortunately, that was nice.
Oh, good.
So they took all my money and left me a $3 million banknote, and then said, "We'll go away and leave you alone, but we just would like a fine. We're just going to charge you a fine."
Okay.
And I said, "Oh, Jesus, thank God."
Yeah. How much for fine?
How much? And honest to God, I was on the phone in my lawyer's office when they said it.
Yeah.
They said, "We're thinking all."
Everything you have.
Everything you have, or
Jail.
you can go to trial in front of a jury of your peers here in Memphis, and we'll show pictures of your 11 cars and your giant houses, and then we'll just let them decide. It's up to you.
Oh shit, dude! You made the right choice.
So I gave them all, and then Ryan, who had known about all this as it was going on, and knew that I wasn't a bad guy, So we had been friends for a long time. He calls me and said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, my phone's not ringing off the hook, and all my friends that I was taking on private jet to the Caymans and shit,
they're all gone. Yep.
They're all gone."
Yep.
And I'm driving my sister's 1986 Jimmy Blazer, because I don't have a car, And he said, "Well, if you can get to Texas, I'll give you half my company, because I know you'll
work your ass off and you'll help with it." Yeah.
Yeah. And he was doing about $2 million a year. And I think the numbers are about right. He was doing about $2 million a year and been there for about 3 years. This is back in like
2008, 9, something like that?
2008. Yeah. 2008. And we couldn't tell anybody because we didn't want to draw attention to it.
Yeah.
Because but we did $9 million in 7 months.
Because that was
as soon as we got together,
your Twitter launch, you did whatever that original one was that Ryan did with you. And
we did the original one with wholesale traffic formula, where I was teaching media buying.
Yep.
Because I was buying about $1 million worth of my own media a month, and that was my biggest job. I wasn't a copywriter then.
Yeah.
I had copywriters.
Yep.
So I was the media buyer. That was my primary purpose in my business. I bought the media. I got really good at buying media. So I was buying about $750,000 worth of media a month myself. So it was easy for me to teach media buying.
Yeah.
So I taught wholesale traffic formula. It crushed. We did a couple $1 million, which paid all my legal bills.
I remember that launch. I remember watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the password. This is a funny story.
Yeah.
The password to our shopping cart then was "Save Perry's ass." That was the password to get in and see the orders. And so we got through that. And then Ryan did the $1 million napkin launch,
that was a good one.
Continuity Blueprint launch.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I did the social media system launch.
Was like make $1 per subscriber on your Twitter or something?
And because I was making it, I proved it. Yeah. I was making $1 per Twitter follower per month.
That's insane.
And I had proof of it. And that launch did, I think we did almost $6 million that launch. It was a big launch.
I remember that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was the first person to I think 8 people shy of 10,000 people on the webinar the night before. Oof. Back then.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And we crushed it. We did like $2.5 million that night on the pre-webinar. It was insane. We just had momentum, like unreal momentum, and a lot of fire in my gut to make money. My ass was on fire to make money.
Were you married when all this happened? Did you go to jail at all? I mean, I got arrested at Burning Man once, which I don't know if you ever heard that story.
I didn't go to jail. I got arrested. I had to go in and be processed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was married, and I'd married my wife in the Philippines, and she was coming over here on a marriage visa, and that got stalled because of all this. So we didn't see each other for a year and a half, and I couldn't leave the country.
Oh man.
So it was, she couldn't come here, I couldn't go there. And yeah, we had some trials. It was something else. But it was funny, 3 years after all that happened, I had a party at my house. Giant party, invited everybody I knew. We had live bands. It was a great time.
Yeah.
It was the Perry's broke party.
Yeah.
Because that's when I got back to zero.
Oh man, holy crap.
Because I didn't file
your way to
bankruptcy.
Nothing. Yeah. You didn't.
I didn't file bankruptcy.
Why didn't you? What prevented you from doing that? Or what was the logic behind it at the time?
Well, there was a prideful reason. I could lie to you and tell you, well, that's just
don't lie to me, Perry. We don't lie to each other.
But part of it was I didn't want to file bankruptcy because it would have really hurt my image in the let me show you how to be successful business.
Makes sense.
But also I had people that I'd done business with for years that were friends, like Kevin Parlin. Sad news about Kevin. PowerPay. I had all kinds of chargebacks and stuff because they shut down all my stuff, right? And I was when you're doing $3 million a month and you just stop.
Oh yeah.
You just pile up chargebacks. So I had about, I think $400,000 or $500,000 worth of chargeback stuff from PowerPay.
Yeah.
And I paid every dollar of it. I paid it $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, just got it all paid back. And I kept everybody at bay to where nobody sued me. There was one person who was a real asshole to me, who I still carry a bit of a grudge about, over money I didn't really owe. But everybody else was cool, and I paid everybody back. And then I had this big party when I got to zero. But that was 2011. It took me from 2008 to 2011 to get back to zero. I was pulling out enough money to live on, but everything else was going to pay back debt.
So that was like, you're basically I'm 44 now. So you're right around my age when that happened, and you were kind of starting from nothing. Well, you were not starting from nothing because you knew Ryan, you had access to media, you had all that other kind of, people ask me sometimes, they're like, Chris, if you lost everything
I had a skill set,
Yeah. If people ask me, they're like, if you lost everything tomorrow, what would you do? I'm like, well, I'd call Perry, I'd call Kevin Nation. I just call people I know and say, can we do a project together?
Got a network.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Because I know people at this point and I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
And that's when I got super heavy into copywriting because I didn't want to ever I didn't ever want to have to make a claim again to make a sale. So if I could write copy that was emotionally stirring, I didn't have to make tactile claims.
Perry, you're giving away my secrets right now. This is what I do all the time.
Instead of saying lose 30 pounds in 30 days, I could tell an emotional story about a girl curled up in a ball in a dressing room with all of her friends waiting outside for her to come out and show them the dress that she put on. And she's crying in the corner and wants to throw up because they're all standing out there like an execution squad, just waiting for her to walk out.
Beautiful.
And so I learned how to press all those emotional buttons in copy. And then I just wrote some fire copy.
Where did you learn copy from? Who were your, was it like Dan Kennedy stuff, John Carlton stuff? Like what were you absorbing that was giving you that stuff? Where you were learning from?
It was a combination of a lot of stuff. I hand wrote when I went to Austin, I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any money. Enough to pay my bill, pay the rent and food. And that was about it.
Holy crap.
And I was paying everybody back. So at night when we'd stop working, I just go home and I had my kids half the time. So if they were at their mom's, because I actually moved her down to Austin too and paid all her bills to get her to move. So I was double billed.
Yeah.
So every penny I was making was going to somebody.
That's a lot of weight on your shoulders, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was sitting in the house for that 7 nights, every other week, and I had nothing to do, I wrote every Gary Halbert letter by hand. And that was probably the thing that helped me learn more than anything else was that. But Gary was still claims heavy,
He was very claims heavy.
And then I started studying behavioral science, and that was really game changers for me. I studied, I studied more of the traditional advertising side, the Ogilvy side, and
Ogilvy on advertising.
Ogilvy on advertising. I studied all the old, of course, read the old Capel stuff and all that
Breakthrough
stuff.
advertising and how to write a good
John Kennedy stuff, breakthrough advertising. I read all that stuff and then started getting more and more into storytelling, trying to figure out how to be a better storyteller. And I kind of got off into how movie scripts are written, and how brain chemistry works, and how nostalgia stimulates brain chemical production, and all kinds of. I studied one whole year. So one of the things I did, it was fun. Chris, you would dig doing this, by the way. I haven't done it in a while. I want to get back to it. For 5 or 6 years, I would choose in January of every year a field of study, and I would study that field for a year.
Cool.
So one year I did primate behavior, which was really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
One year I did political coups, political uprisings. One year I did subcultures, like just studying all these weird ass subcultures of people, like suspending piercers. Like people, do you know what that is?
I do. Perry, I live in Seattle and I live a very interesting life. I know all sorts of people that do all sorts of things.
Yeah. Most people don't know what the hell that is.
I'm just quick aside. I was at a party once a few years ago. It was kind of a sexy party. People were wearing superhero costumes, etc. And I'm there alone. My wife wasn't around for whatever reason. And I'm sitting there and I look over to my right and I literally saw a woman suspended by hooks through her flesh being fucked right there. And I'm like, I'm kind of bored. I want to go home and play Assassin's Creed. And I did. I was like, it's whatever, seen it, done it, whatever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I studied bears, otters, and pups. I studied life inside truck stops, which is really an interesting world.
Yeah.
I studied, so I did that for a year. I studied political speech writers for a year, which is a fascinating thing to study.
Oh, dude, I read a lot of stuff like from Karl Rove and shit like that, just studying that stuff and just how the psychology.
Yeah, there's a great
Republicans are so much better at this shit, like they're so good at the messaging.
It's called the Political Brain. I think it is a Political Mind. There's a foreword in it by Bill Clinton. Says it's the best book on politics ever written. It's a great book, and it really talks about how to sway masses of people. When you can go into, like Castro went into Cuba with like 80 men and took over a country. We don't do that with guns. You do that with ideas and stories. Yeah. And he had an idea, he had stories, and he was able to take over an entire nation with, I think it was 80 men or 180 men or something like that. It was crazy.
That's insane, dude.
So
that's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Right. And so I studied all that stuff, and I don't know, it's that kind of an amalgamation came. And then when I learned a lot from Kennedy and from David Fry and a few others about just how to structure the sequence
in a story
of the piece. Well, the story and just the sequence of a piece, right? There is sort of a sequence that one needs to follow in a piece. And I learned a lot from
as far as like sales letter structure, you mean?
Yeah. And I learned a lot from the dating guys, a lot. Because I think I always thought that whole pickup artist thing was kind of goofy.
It really is.
But what they teach and what they study and learn and teach is incredibly applicable to copy.
It's just marketing stuff,
in my opinion. It's romance, right?
Well, dude, all of my products as Michael Fiore are fundamentally copywriting products applied to relationships and sex. Like if you actually go through them, that's what they are.
Right. Yeah. They're just marketing tactics, right? Yeah. So I worked that backwards. So I learned a lot of that working backwards in opposite direction. So, and for whatever reason, I just kind of started developing my own. I'm a frameworks guy.
Yeah.
So I have to build these frameworks to follow for myself. And then I found that people really found those frameworks really valuable. And I think most people poorly execute them, but so what? I guess it's like, what are you gonna do? I can only do so much, but at least I can give them a framework to follow. And I think somebody who works within a framework, whether it's your framework, my framework, whoever's framework, is probably better off than a person who works in no framework.
Oh, absolutely.
So, so they're, and usually there are only a handful of, in my opinion, there's only a handful of amazing copywriters in the world. And I'm certainly not one of them. I'm absolutely not one of them. There's guys like you and Carlton and Benson and guys that I think are really, Clayton Makepeace was a freaking genius, man.
The fact that I never got to know Clayton still burns me, man. Like
I got to know, what was really cool. I got to meet Clayton at AWAI, and people had told me for years, "You're going to love this guy. He's just like you." And I met him. He was the most red-blooded, conservative.
He is. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Nut job, Trump loving.
Yep.
And we loved each other.
Yep.
And I couldn't be more opposite, right? So he took me up. Well, I could be more. I'm not a flaming liberal, but I'm kind of much more in the middle.
You're kind of like, I'm definitely more liberal. Like, in Seattle, I'm considered a centrist. When I go to business things, people are like, "You pinko come," and I'm like, I just think gay people should be allowed to have rights. Like, what the fuck do you want? Jesus.
Oh, wow, how weird!
How crazy! Oh my god!
So the same time that I met Clayton, I met this guy named Richard Vickery.
I don't know
if you ever heard of him or not. He's a boss. And he became kind of my mentor. And Clayton and I went up quite a few weekends and spent the weekend at Richard's farm in Virginia. Richard has raised more money for the Republican Party than any living human.
Ooh, that's got to be smart.
All through direct
mail. Yep.
He's getting close to 90 years old now.
Holy shit.
He got Reagan, hand to God, he got Reagan elected in first cycle, period. He would not have been elected. He
not only got elected, he won like 70% of the vote in every state except for one that Carter had, right? Yeah. Something like that. It was insane.
Look up Richard Vickery. It's a weird spelling. I forget how you exactly spell it, but he's a little Cajun guy. But he's super respected and such a really great guy. But we would go up there and like Richard's kitchen table is an old wooden kitchen table. Everything is house 200 years old. And there's a carving in the table. And remember when the Republicans did the contract with America?
Oh yeah. Great verbiage.
That was written at Richard's kitchen table. Newt Gingrich signed it and carved it in. And he's got one of Nixon's old Lincoln town cars that was a presidential limousine in his barn outside. It's crazy. Like the guy's a piece of Americana. He's known by everybody in the political space, but he's fiercely conservative. But still understands the practice of civil discourse and how to be a statesman. And really that's the missing thing. We can't disagree anymore without hating each other. It's such bullshit.
Yep. What do you think about?
But he and I are great friends.
Yeah. What do you think about, so persuasion, we work in persuasion, obviously. I had Colin Terry on my show a few weeks ago, and we talked a lot about this stuff, about persuasion in general. What do you tell people, especially like newer marketers, newer business people who find the idea of selling and persuading ethically abhorrent more than anything else, right? You meet these people that either don't want to sell because they're afraid to, or there's people like I've dealt with people before who are like trying to persuade anybody to buy anything is fundamentally wrong, which I'm like, well, go fuck yourself, whatever. Do you have any kind of like thoughts on why people come at, like, what do you think about the ethics of persuasion, the ethics of marketing, that kind of thing?
The ethics of persuasion, in my opinion, are abhorrent. They're terrible if you're trying to persuade somebody to do something that's not in their best interest to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you think about it, this is the way I look at it. And when I go to close a sales piece, and I know that I'm selling a thing that's going to help somebody's life or has potential to help somebody's life, I switch my position to a very commanding position.
Yep.
And I think about being at a coffee shop across from a friend who's really, really sick that needs to go to the hospital.
That is great. Yeah, that is
so
great.
I look at them and go, dude, well, I'm just going to go home and take some. No, you're not. Bullshit. Get your ass up, get in the car. I'm taking you to the hospital right now because this is bullshit. I'm not going to let my friend die because you're going to be all prideful and tough. Get your ass up right now. I'm going to drag you by the ear. I'm going to take you to the doctor right now. We're going to get you better.
I love that. Go ahead, yeah.
Pardon me?
Oh, I was saying like Carlton talks about the gun to the head thing, right? Like, write your copy like you have a gun to your head, which I like, but I actually like this better. It's not about a gun to your head. It's about like,
it's not a gun to your head.
Somebody you care about.
Yeah. If you're selling, if you get yourself in the mind of that avatar you're talking to, that you care about their well-being and what you have to do will better their life. And if they don't do it, their life is likely not going to be as good.
Yep.
Then you should be very commanding by the time you get to the close of a letter, in my opinion. I don't think you should be him-hawing around. And if you
Not at
think
all.
this is great for you, on that bullshit, at this point, you're like, do this.
As soon as I bring up as soon as I introduce the product, I switch from friendly, conversational, we're in this together to I am the person telling you to do things. Like as soon as we get to that.
Yeah, you got to prescribe it. Like you go to your doctor, the doctor doesn't say, it'd be a good idea if you'd stop smoking and drinking whiskey. They say, if you don't stop drinking whiskey and smoking, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And here's your signal, here's your markers, and you're going to freaking die. So you're going to go right now and do these tests, and you're going to go to the drugstore and get these drugs, and and they prescribe it to you. And you go, wow, the doc said, I got to do this. I'm going to go do it. Right. So if you can think of yourself in that position, then I think persuasion's a fine enough thing.
Because you want to help somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're doing it to help somebody, if you're selling a turd piece of shit that nobody's going to benefit from, and you're persuading them to buy it, well, you're a piece of shit. That's just the truth of that. And you won't be successful because in your heart of hearts, you're a piece of shit.
Yep.
Even going back into my supplement days, the supplement stuff that we sold, man, I had thousands of amazing letters from people. I had people tracking me down 3 years later when I was with Ryan, begging me to sell them products because it was the only thing that had ever helped them. And I was literally sending people formulas. Here's the formula for it. Go buy the ingredients and make it yourself.
Yeah.
Because it really was helpful stuff. And I could never just sell something that's just,
I have things earlier in my career.
I never have.
Yeah. Earlier in my career, back when I was in my like slutty whore, take whatever work you can get phase, I did a few projects for people, Eastern European people usually, weirdly enough, who I just fundamentally didn't agree with the product, thought it was a scam, whatever. And it was painful to do. Even when I got paid, it was painful to do because it just was not in line with my own personal attitude towards life or anything. And it really kind of tore me apart. Let's talk about motivation.
You're much different.
Oh, go ahead.
You're a much different animal than me, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
Chris. You could do something I could never do.
What's that?
If you give me a product to sell and say, go write me a sales piece for this, I'm going to fail every day.
Really?
The only thing that makes me successful is I design my products.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always selling a thing that I've already determined there's a market for. I've determined how the product can help the market, and I have to build. It makes my job a whole lot harder because I have to go out and build the thing. Yep. Like I know you just went through building your pig system.
I did. Yeah.
It was a nightmare. It's like giving birth, right?
It took a few months.
I have to build.
It was hard.
Yeah, I have to build the product to fill the need. And then it sells really well, by and large, not because I'm a good copywriter, by and large, because there was a need in the market for that thing. So if I had to make a living as a copywriter writing for other people, I feel pretty certain that I would fail.
It's possible. A lot of people are like that, actually. I mean, for me, back when I was freelancing, I would very often, like with Joe Barton, right? He would come to me, he would say, can you write a letter for this back pain product? And I could, because I got hit by a semi-truck once, so I know a lot about that kind of thing. And I would write the letter and send it over to him. And then he would come back later saying, hey, we have a customer looking for this bullet that you put on the third page of the letter. Where is it? And I'm like, well, I took your really crappy product and made really good copy for it. Maybe you should go and make the product as good as the copy. Is what I would generally tell people.
Yeah. That's a great thing about selling books. You can always go back and change the book and make it to meet the copy. Sometimes you can't do that with other physical products. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was a big distinction of mine. I'm more of a product developer, honestly, than I'm a copywriter. I
focus more on that. So like when I'm teaching my students these days who are freelancers, I mean, I haven't freelanced in a really long time. I like doing my own things and whatever else, but I'm always telling them, don't, start with the copy, do the product later if you can, right? Focus on creating something that can actually sell, come up with bullets that are actually going to work, like all of that kind of stuff, and then make the product as opposed to.
I do that with info. I write as if anything is possible.
Yep.
I write as if the truth doesn't matter at all.
Yep. No compliance.
I write for the product.
Yeah.
I write for the product that I know I can make people buy. And then let's go see how close we can make the product to that and then edit the copy down.
Yeah, and you can bring it down for compliance, whatever. Let's talk about motivation for a second and what motivates people, because you mentioned before about when doctors go to patients and they say, if you don't do this, you're going to die. I have a really good friend who's a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor, and he has a voice like this. And he very often talks about how it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, right? People come to him and he says, if you don't stop smoking and stop doing what you're doing, get some exercise, you're going to die. And they don't change anything. Right? They just don't change anything. And you were talking before.
I have an ex-wife that just died from alcoholism, same way.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I have an ex-wife that died from alcoholism.
I'm very sorry. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. So, but you were saying a few minutes ago about the weight loss thing you were talking about, and you were approaching it from a very similar angle I do. You were talking about a woman being in the changing room, putting on the bikini, not wanting to show her friends. And that, in my opinion, is far more motivating and far more persuasive than if you opened up the letter with, you're so fat, you're going to die. Because in my experience, what motivates people is not the abstract concept of death, but it's the pain of either social ostracism or losing something in your it has to feel more realistic, because death is such a abstract, impossible concept for so many people.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think that's kind of interesting to kind of dig down when you're working on your letter. I'm never trying to think of the most extreme result. I'm trying to think of the result or the pain point that they are hitting every single day in their lives, basically.
Yeah, the brain chemical thing was really cool for me, because I realized that brain chemicals are not stimulated at the point something happens.
Yeah.
They're stimulated on the anticipation of something happening.
Meet Your Happy Chemicals.
So,
have you read that book? Meet Your Happy Chemicals?
That a jillion times. Yeah. And that's when I studied primates for that whole year. She got me off into that land of studying primates.
That book's amazing.
Loretta Bruning. I tried to get her to come speak at TNC, but she's a little crazy. Yeah, but she's super cool. She's really smart, but she's kind of talking to her is pretty out there, man.
I believe it. Yeah.
Get her on the pod. I bet she's a great.
Dude, I would love to. That'd be great. I'd love to.
Yeah. But I thought she was absolutely fantastic. But for me to tell a story that raises nostalgia, stories are great because Robert Cialdini one time told me you can't argue with a story.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really big point. You can't argue with a story. So when you're telling a story that's nostalgic, it makes them laugh, it makes them cry, it makes them mad, it makes them jealous, it makes them stirs as many emotions as possible. You can just embed all sorts of commands and ideas inside that story while you're telling it. And as you well know, and it's the subtleties that you're embedding that they're consciously kind of skipping over that are leading them down that path of buying the thing. Motivation, to me is super basic. I start with, staying safe and getting laid. And 99.99999% of shit, I think can be sold based on those two motivations.
Primal desires, man. Primal desires. Yeah.
Yeah. Women buy cosmetics and clothing and beauty products to remain attractive, mostly for safety reasons. And men buy fancy cars and make a lot of money and get power so that they can attract women that are out of their range.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's really, at the end of the day, there's almost nothing other than an escape from pain that you can't put in those buckets. And the escape from pain, if you can emotionalize it, like today, if I were going to do another gout product, I would talk about the difficulty to get out of a chair, or the embarrassment of not being able to be mobile, or the fear of immobilization. I would never talk about gout.
No,
I would just talk about being immobilized, because the fear for older folks of being of no longer being independent or being institutionalized in some way, or is super motivating, much more than their health. They won't do it for their health to be healthier. They'll do it for their health to not have to leave their home or to be put in a nursing home or whatever, because the social stigma of that to them is that they're just 1 foot away from death, and God, the last place I want to go is a nursing home.
And it's that loss of power, loss of independence, loss of just feeling good.
So so all those things are, but positive motivators, all I know is, safety, security, and sex. And those, I don't really write anything that's to the higher Maslow's hierarchy. I don't really write to the hierarchy of
Yeah, has
self-actualization
your
or
needs.
any of
Yeah.
that or woo woo. I'm just not. I'm not a guy that writes that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything wrong
Let's
with
talk more
that.
about nostalgia, because you brought that up a couple of times. What do you mean by nostalgia? Because nostalgia to me, it means like going back to your childhood, feeling safety, a better time. Like human beings always think it used to be better, even when it used to be worse, and all that other kind of shit. What do you mean by
We all, yeah.
nostalgia-based stories? Yeah.
Well, by the way, you know what nostalgia? You know what the definition, the
I do not.
actual definition word nostalgia is?
Hmm.
It's the tinge of an old wound.
Ooh, that's amazing.
I learned that from this amazing lesson called Mad Men.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember. Yes, yes. So that's a great scene. I
Yeah,
only watched the
it's the
first season of that show, but I remember now. Yeah.
yeah, the tinge of an old wound.
Yeah.
And nostalgia, what nostalgia does for us that other things don't, all those brain chemicals of oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, even cortisol,
Yep.
which is useful in certain parts in sales messages. Nostalgic moments re-stimulate the production of those chemicals, and most people aren't aware of that. So if you if you meet well, I'll give you a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Nations, my good friend who I spend a lot of time with because we're here in town. A year or two ago, he got sick, really sick, and was very, very ill. He got an infection because he ate at a pho restaurant, a Vietnamese pho restaurant that
Undercooked
he
or something
got
like that.
some sort of he got some really bad infection
Parasite or something. Yeah.
and almost I don't know if he got close to death, but I don't think he was far from death. He was in the hospital for days and days.
Oh man.
And today, if you mention pho to him to go eat pho, he can't eat anything for a couple hours.
Absolutely.
So he's when you bring that up or he sees that, it stimulates that the reenactment of that event happens in his brain.
It's like a
and
trauma response.
Yeah. A smaller amount of those same brain chemicals are produced, just like PTSD. Same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You having this rush of adrenaline, this rush of cortisol, because of the anticipation of something bad happening. So nostalgia can be used, to remind you of happier days, Pepperidge Farms, remembers, that kind of thing, or Make America Great Again was a great example.
Fantastic,
of that.
Fantastic messaging right there, man. Yeah.
Oh my God, fantastic! It's like
way better than Hillary's "I'm with her." You're like, what the fuck does that?
Yeah,
mean?
mama's fried chicken and apple pie, and all that. It was really brilliant. It was really brilliant because people do tend to, like you said, people remember the past way better than it ever was. Yep. Almost every case.
Always, yeah.
They remember way better than it ever was. So when they're thinking that way and they think they can get back to that somehow, I almost bought a farm in Georgia a year ago. I need a farm in Georgia like a fucking hole in my head.
Why did you almost buy a farm
I grew
in
up
Georgia?
because my grandmother had a farm, and I realized that I had really fond memories of a farm when I was a kid. And now, how fond were those memories when I was on the farm? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they were great. They seem right now they feel great, but I don't know. They might have been.
Only remember the good parts.
Slopping hogs, and I was slopping hogs and killing chickens and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know, but yes, but I got that nostalgic memory. I was looking through a bunch of photos of my mom's stuff, and I was like, maybe I'll just buy a farm. That's what I'll do, And I started looking, and I got down to talking to realtors about buying like 200-acre farms in Georgia. And I'm
like, just gonna hire people to run it or what?
Dude, I live in a high rise, man. I don't have. I own a survival business. I don't have an extra bottle of water in my house. I own the American Gun Association. I don't own a gun.
Yeah.
Don't broadcast that, by the way. Just kidding. But yeah, it's like crazy. But you get these ideas in your head. Every now and then you got to pick up the phone and call an old girlfriend, right?
Yeah,
Because
true. Yeah.
you remember the good times, but you don't remember the bad times, right?
Mhm.
And the bad times were pretty effing bad.
Pretty
As
fucking.
soon as you're hooked
There's a
back up
reason
with
your
her,
ex is your ex,
you know,
generally speaking. Yeah.
yeah, as soon as you hook back up with her, you remember why pretty quick, right?
Mhm.
Because reality's stretching. But yeah, I think that's nostalgia is an incredibly powerful thing, and so is new. That same lesson was in
Yeah.
that same episode. That new, um, either new or old is great.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
people are very disappointed with it. It's the
It's new
present
science or
everyone's
ancient
disappointed with.
knowledge, right? New science, ancient knowledge.
Right.
Those are the two I
Yeah.
always say for books.
Everybody is just seems to be disgusted with the present.
Yep.
They either want to live in the past or they want to live in the future. And they seem to be disgusted with their present.
Yeah. Have you ever dealt with depression or anything like that? I mean, obviously when you got arrested, that must have been tough as fuck. Did you fall into any kind of depression or anything at that point? And how did losing your money affect your feeling of identity at that point? Like, because I know for me,
I became very, you could ask Ryan, he laughs about it because, so when I went to Austin and started working with Ryan,
yeah.
we were both public for a little while, and I decided I didn't want to be public because I still had a lot of haters and stuff. So I just kind of backed off, and he was the face. And I was Ryan in writing for
Yep.
3 or 4 years.
Oh,
Everything
wow.
he wrote was me. Everything he said was me. I wrote
Mhm.
all the VSLs. I wrote all the emails, pretty much, not everything, but a lot of it. And he said, then all this, and I took a very submissive role.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, just do whatever you want.
You
Yeah,
put
man,
on a
this is
collar and a
what I'll
leash and you
do.
were like, hey, whatever, man, it's good.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he said one day Perry's balls dropped back down. And then we were just like this. We were just at each other's throats for about a year.
Wow. Yeah. I get that.
Because I wanted to run it my way and he wanted to run it his way, and we had to work through all that. And we got through it. And we had enough companies that I just went over and ran a different company, and he ran that one, and
That makes
it
sense.
worked out. We kind of stayed out of each
Was that
other's
before you
lane.
guys were working
But
with Roland on stuff?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And that was right around the same time, actually. We brought in a CEO that was a really bad experience for
I
us.
remember that. I know who you're talking about.
And yeah, and then Roland was in Warren then, and he said, "Can I help?" And he helped us to unwind that deal.
Okay.
And then when it was unwound, we had lost a lot of money and things were kind of janky, and so he made an offer to buy in and did, and was really good for that company actually. Roland's
I
really
feel like,
smart
yeah,
guy.
Roland's such a, I mean, I don't know him super well, but we've had a few conversations. Really interesting, really intelligent, very giving guy too, which I'm always quite impressed with. He seems to make time
Really
for it.
smart guy.
Very,
Really
very,
smart guy.
very
Yeah.
smart guy. Yeah. Did you write that $1 million napkin letter way back in the day, or is that something that Ryan wrote? Because I love that hook, right? I remember watching that back in the day, and
Ryan, I think, wrote the $1 million napkin letter.
Yeah.
I think he wrote all of it. I don't know if I wrote any of that letter because he was really proudful. He was really proud. He was really proud of that letter, and he had written it. It was the continuity blueprint.
Yep.
Letter, but the hook was the napkin, and it really was a really nice hook.
What I love about it is that he wasn't, what I love about it is he almost like thingified a technique, right? Thingification is something I talk about in one of my courses and whatnot. But I love that it's like, it's not about, I'm going to teach you this thing that you can then do. It's that I'm going to give you the $1 million napkin, which I think is psychologically so profoundly different than an education related kind of product. Cause I'm like, hey, here's a thing. And we're saying the thing is going to do everything for you as opposed to you having to do it. Cause part of what I always think,
powerful concept.
It's partially, and also like from one of the things that I talk about a lot is people don't trust themselves to do it right? Fundamentally, people have
nobody does.
Yeah. If you're selling,
nobody has any self-esteem.
Exactly. So I always try to make it so like either they feel like I'm going to do it for them, or the product's going to do it for them, or whatever else. But you want to take responsibility away from the actual buyer for getting it done. Because I even say that in my copy sometimes when I'm doing like a crossroads close at the end. I'll be like, hey, you got 3 options. One is you can leave this page and never come back and go back to your life where everything sucks. 2 is you can try to do it yourself. And I always say, but we both know what's going to happen if you try to do that, right? You're either going to you're going to lose. And then the third one is actually buy the product.
Right. Yeah.
What do you see change? Like, how do you think, do you think copywriting has changed at all in the last 10 years? Do you think it's going to change in the next 10 years? Or do you think the fundamentals are always going to be the same?
I think that it's going to be harder and harder.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Hard to know.
Yeah, because I think we're all going to have to be able to deliver the same amount of message we've been delivering in about 8 minutes.
Yeah. That's
I had a meeting 3-4 weeks ago with a lady who used to work for Google, and she went around the world teaching the YouTube advertising platform to people and how to use YouTube organically and YouTube ads to businesses all over the world.
Yeah.
And she had this amazing data from YouTube. And it's something like, I forget what she said, but I think it was only 12, it was either 12% or 9% of YouTube videos are watched for more than 8 minutes.
Holy crap. That's intense.
No matter how long they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Google says basically 8 minutes is it used to be back 10 years ago when YouTube started.
Yeah.
It was 22 minutes. Now it's 8.
So where's it going to go?
So
do you think that's because people have shorter attention spans? Or do you think it's because I listen to a fair number of podcasts. We're doing a podcast right now. We're over an hour now. We'll go for however much longer we want to go for. And in my experience, people like Joe Rogan's podcast, other things like that. They like the longer kind of stuff because it's a conversation. Do you think it's just that people have lower attention span, or the fact that it's a video, you have to kind of focus on it, or what do you think is making that change, that people are watching shorter and shorter chunks of these things?
I'm certainly not an expert. I don't know, but my guess is most of it has to do with all the stuff that's coming at them in a day.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I was noticing the other day, Facebook. I'll look in the morning and see what's in my Facebook feed, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm averaging 4 or 5 offers in my Facebook feed, something to do with marketing.
Yeah. Every day.
Within 10 minutes of the time I started my day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Most of those offers are probably not doing well, but everybody nibbles a little fraction away.
Yep.
Everybody nibbles a little attention away.
Yep.
And you only got X minutes in a day that you're willing to spend, Do you know, by the way, I heard today, the average TikTok user stays on TikTok 44 minutes a day.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
insane. But people only have so much eyeball time in a day to be doing something. And there's incredible competition for that eyeball space.
Yep.
And really smart money and really great big companies that have data that we'll never be privy to, are figuring out on a 1-to-1 person basis what's going to grab your attention today. And we're out there trying to shotgun it with dummy data.
Yeah.
And we think we're smart. So it's going to be harder. I think that that being said, I think that the stuff like the privacy stuff is going to help us as good marketers.
You mean as far as like iOS 14 and shit like that, like where the tracking is done? Why do you think that? Where does that go?
Because marketing has been dominated in the last 5 or 6 years, I think, by people that weren't very good marketers. They were just really good targeters.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they can't target, they're dead.
True.
I had a guy come in my office here, did $45 million in like 2018, 2019, a year.
Mm-hmm.
And after iOS, he's going to do $4 or $5 million.
Holy shit, dude. Wow.
Because they were just nailing it on micro targeting, micro intent, and they can't now. And I'm looking at his copy. I'm like, this stuff is shit. How did this ever sell at all? And it sold to people. They were doing trauma therapy-ish stuff, kind of skeezy, I think. Yeah. But anyway, trauma coaching or whatever.
Sure.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but who knows? Who the hell knows who you're talking to on the other end of that horn, right?
Yeah, totally.
But they were targeting people who had, searched terms like, post-rape trauma and stuff like that. So they had these people that were in discussion forums about, rape trauma and things like that.
Yeah.
So they could get down to really granular level with these folks, to where when they put the message in their face, it looked like they were talking only to them.
Yep.
And they did incredibly well. And they can't do that right now. Now, I think that when Apple brings out its advertising platform later this year, opens it up, I think it's going to be more like Google's ad platform. Google's new ad platform, Google Performance Max.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do anything. You just upload your website and Google says, okay,
wow,
thanks, we'll go get you customers.
Like I'm assuming you're making the ads and shit like that, or is that just like they're going
Negative?
Negative. You just put up a site and say, send me traffic.
They produce all the ads.
That's insane. I'm assuming there's machine learning, AI kind of
you
stuff.
You already get Qasim Assam on to explain it to you.
Yeah.
Do you know Qasim?
I don't think so, no.
Qasim's probably the smartest marketer alive today. Technical marketer.
What's his last name?
Aslam, A-S-L-A-M. K-A-S-I-M A-S-L-A-M. I'm flying up to see him in Phoenix this week.
Cool. Well, put in a good word for me.
Qasim's brilliant.
Yeah.
Qasim's won Wicked Smart 8 times in a row at Wharton.
Holy shit, dude. That's pretty impressive. It's pretty
smart room.
That's a pretty smart room.
Yeah.
What do you think of AI copywriting stuff? What do you think? Is that the big boogeyman that people think it's going to be? Or do you think it's just is it a tool that just helps copywriters get better? Is it going to replace people? What's your opinion?
Well, I've got a business called Copy Geeks. So we do ads, and we don't do long form copy, but we do ads, emails, stuff like that, where we use AI. And I kind of train them on my techniques mixed with some AI. And we write for people who need just a shitload of copy, who need e-commerce descriptions and stuff like that. I think long form, it's helpful, man. It's very helpful. I use the most useful tool I have is this little tool called WordTune. Have you used that yet?
I don't think so, no. WordTune.
Do you use Grammarly?
I do not. I run my stuff through it every once in a while, but I'm pretty good at writing at like a 5th grade level anyway.
Yeah. Well, what WordTune does, it goes through sentence by sentence and gives you alternative ways that sentence could be structured.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So every sentence, it'll give you 3 or 4 different ways you could structure that sentence, or you can say, no, I like it the way it is. And I run all my copy through it at the end. So that's helpful to me a lot. I think sometimes I'll run stuff through Jarvis. Well, it's just now Jasper or whatever it is, just to see what kind of idea production it comes up with. I really just want to see the hooks or whatever it might find. Yeah. I find that interesting. But I don't, as a rule, I don't use it. I don't think, I think AI will definitely be able to write persuasive copy soon.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like soon in the next, I'm guessing the next 24 months, you're going to be able to write better than average persuasive study, which is going to take all the half-ass copywriters out of the market.
I think so too. There's a lot, and there are a lot of half-ass copywriters in the market these days.
Oh God, yeah. Well, like right now, you can go on with MIDI shit and make music by hitting 7 buttons, and it'll just make you a song now.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that, but that's still not going to replace Stevie Wonder, right? There's always going to be.
There's always going to be that elite level where people are acting and just thinking in a whole different way.
Yeah.
Approaching it differently.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be more commoditized. Media buying is about to be completely commoditized. 100%.
Why do you think that?
Because of this stuff like Performance Max. When like what Google wants to happen is they want you to go in and put your website in, not a page, your website. And then they're going to send traffic to your website, not to a page. They're going to choose what page to send it to.
Jesus.
So you'll have they describe it as, it's pretty smart. They tell you how to structure your site. Say, you're going to need an outer band of content that's depending on where the customer is in the journey. Sure. That's like newbie stuff, a middle ground, and then an inside. So for instance, let's say you've got and Qasim could explain this 1,000 times better than me, but let's say you've got a blog about, you're selling a cryptocurrency product, let's say.
Sure.
So you might have a blog about cryptocurrency. You got 40 pages, right? And one of your pages is cryptocurrency for beginners, right? One of your pages is the 5 cryptocurrency trades to make this weekend, right? So Google knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
They know everything you search. They know every word you write in a Google Doc. They know every word you write in an email. They know every word in the person that wrote back to your email. They know every search query you ever made. They know how fucking fast you drive back and forth to work. Do you know that Google right now? Do you know that Google right now is allowing Geico to use Google Maps data to determine who they want to sell auto insurance to?
Oh man.
So it's pretty freaking crazy, right?
Oof.
But
Yeah.
they're gonna know when they send somebody to your cryptocurrency site, if this person's never, ever, ever thought about cryptocurrency, they're gonna send them to your article that says, what the hell is cryptocurrency? But if that person's been searching cryptocurrency and they've been on all the websites and they got a wallet and all that, because Google knows all that, then they may send them all the way to the 5 big crypto trades to make this weekend. And through that content, you've got to have buried pages in there leading them over to an offer page, because they're by and large not going to send people straight to your order page.
Yeah.
But the traffic coming in is so cheap. And like Cosmos got a client right now getting personal injury lawyer leads in Arizona for 50 cents.
And that's a very competitive market. Yeah.
Typically a $500 lead cost.
Jesus Christ. That's insane.
Yeah. But you got to play the game their way.
Yeah. Yeah. The Wild West days are over.
Yeah. And they write the ads. You can upload a 3-minute video clip, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll cut that clip up to use for YouTube and other places. And they don't even ask you for copy for the rest.
That is both incredible and terrifying at the same time, right? From a message.
Well, you don't think about, like, they know that a woman just downloaded the What to Expect When You're Expecting app. They know she's pregnant.
That's, wow. It's a brave new world.
They know before there's an article out now about how they knew how a lady was pissed because they knew before she was emailing her friend or texting her friend or something about, I'm feeling really sick in the morning, like 3 mornings in a row, she felt sick or whatever. They started serving her pregnancy ads. They knew she was pregnant. She didn't.
I feel like there's some
based on her,
like, Jesus.
Based on her behavior, they knew. And what they're going to do now is just all the different platforms that have that data, Facebook, Google, Apple, and all of them are going to block that data from being used by advertisers publicly, but they're going to use it in a shadow way. My guess is Amazon's going to follow Google Performance Max's model. And if you want to buy Apple ads, when Apple Ads platform comes out, I think they're going to say, give us your URL and how much you want to spend today, and then go screw off.
That's quite a change from what we've been playing with for all these years.
I really think it's going to happen. I think it's going to absolutely destroy media buyers completely. I think they're all gone. I think media buyers got 2 years max. And then you're going to start dumping AI copy into the mix to feed to them.
Yep.
On the landing pages. So, yeah.
Where do those copywriters go to as well? Yeah. All the it's so interesting how, like, people see copy as a biz op these days. So many people see copy as a biz op, and I see their stuff and I'm like, but you suck at this. You're not going to make any money. You haven't gotten.
Yeah. You're not a craftsman of it. You're not a craftsman. And I know my ability. I'm at best a C+ copywriter. So but I'm a really great product developer, which I'm kind of excited because I think the only thing left is going to be
creating your own stuff,
developing, finding holes in markets and developing products to fill those holes. I think that's going to, I'll be a dinosaur still making it work, probably.
Yeah.
If I'm right,
Cool stuff. Well, I guess we should stop. It's been like an hour and 20 minutes. So I guess we should probably close this down.
It's good times.
It's always good times. You and I have never really just sat down and had a conversation before all the years that we kind of know each other. I think we've been at dinners and stuff like that where other people were there.
Well, you're usually in a spandex blue jumpsuit.
I don't do that so much. This is the funny thing. People these days are like, oh my God, Chris, where are the tights? I'm like, I was crazy when I was doing that, right? like quite literally, I was in the middle of a hypomanic episode for like 5 years. So these days people are like, oh, I can't wear your tights. I'm like, I just don't do that anymore. I'm sorry. That
That
wasn't
anymore.
really me.
I'm going to
That
start
wasn't-
wearing them just for your spirit. The next time you see me,
I would love to see you in a pair of tights, Barry.
I'll look like a beluga whale. You'll
You
be
dress
able
as
to
me, and I'll
recognize
wear
me.
a suit like you do, and we'll see if anybody can tell the
Yeah,
difference.
you got
That'd be
it.
great. I'm
You
like,
got
you know,
it.
only
The cowboy shirt.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be great. Anything else I mean, I don't think you need
No.
pitches or anything like that, but well, that was fucking
I don't
fantastic.
have anything to sell or need.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll have
All
you
right,
on
buddy.
again at some point in the future too. I'm glad you're out doing podcasts and stuff finally after not doing.
Yeah, I may do one of these days. I just decided I want to guest on a bunch of them first and see how I like it before I make the decision whether I want to do
That's what I did. And the reason I started this podcast, well, there's a bunch of reasons, but largely was just because I would go guest on podcasts and then I would get people coming to me trying to buy things. And I was like, okay, well, I should just do a show of my own, because I know that if people listen to enough of this stuff, then a certain type of person is going to be like, hey, I want to learn more from you and buy things. And it's a great experience. How often do you just get a chance to like sit down and talk to a friend of yours for like an hour?
Yeah.
And a half?
Yeah, you don't. The only thing I do, I usually stay at the indies because I almost forgot.
Yeah.
I do love to find businesses in the $2 million range or so that are stuck, that don't know how to grow. Because I like to invest in those businesses and work with them. So if there's anybody that happens to hear that and has a situation like that, let me know.
Cool. How should they hit you up, on Facebook or something, or email, or what?
Actually, better text message, believe it or not. My phone number, I just give out my phone number to every freaking body. It's pretty
Go for
weird.
it, man. There should be a few hundred people that hear this, so hopefully you'll get a few people out of it.
Yeah, it's 512-971-5049. So if you have a company that needs help, or if you're a wayward delinquent girl, call
or you
me.
just want to send dick pics, basically, just tons and tons of dick pics to Perry Belcher.
Well, you know,
I don't know,
and that's it. I got Frank for that.
That's fucking awesome. All right, my friend, I guess I'm going to stop it here. Thank you so much. This was really super fun to kind of hang out. I hope, hopefully I'll see you out on the road at some point in the not too distant future, since I'm actually traveling again.
Yeah, I'm out a lot. I just built a little event center here. So I'm doing my own events here now. So I do a lot of little 50-person events, little private. I'm doing at least one every month, a little 50-person private event where I teach something in an intensive format. And it's like, they're high dollar, like $5,000 ticket stuff, and just 50 people. And I like doing that because I get to know everybody in the audience. When I do the bigger ones, because I've been doing those weirdest event ones and I like them. The next one will probably be the last one of those, but we do about 200 or 300 people in those. That's just too big. I love a 50-person room. I get to know everybody in that room in 3 days. I
think people are more willing to kind of speak up and such in that kind of environment because it feels more intimate. They don't feel like so many eyes are on them, like at a big war room kind of situation, or TNC or something. Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, this is great. And thanks. Hit up Perry, send him some dick pics, and hopefully we'll have you again sometime in the future.
Now I'm gonna get all these dick pics. Thanks.
All these dick pics. Okay.
All right.
You'll just get things like Dick Cheney and Tricky Dick Nixon.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. Thanks, buddy.